Hi, my name is Alexa Infante, and today I'm going to be talking about communications and close relationships through the movie To All the Boys That I've Loved Before. As humans, we experience a wide variety of relationships in our lives. Although we all experience them, we all have our own personal relationships that we consider to be the most important to us. Researchers interviewed a few hundred college students and asked which relationships they considered to be most important to them. About 47% identified a romantic partner. About 36% chose a friendship, and most of the rest, which was about 14%, said a close family member. These relationships are vital, and the film To All the Boys I've Loved Before has examples of all three. Research shows that close relationships may be the single most important source of life satisfaction and emotional well-being across different ages and cultures. To All the Boys I've Loved Before is a movie about Laura Jean's pretty unique love story. The 16-year-old has written letters to 5 different boys who have been significant in her life through all ages. And with the push from her younger sister Kitty, the letters end up in all of their hands. Although she was upset, the letters reminded Laura Jean about how powerful her emotions can truly be. Communication in close relationships can be analyzed through 3 different perspectives in the movie: her relationship romantically, her relationship with her family members, and the evolution of her friendship. The first letter she writes is to Josh Sanderson, her original young love boyfriend, her neighbor, who ends up growing up and becoming her older sister Margot's boyfriend. As you could see, the story gets pretty complex. She also writes a letter to Kenny from camp, Lucas James, John Ambrose, and most importantly, Peter Kavinsky, who ends up actually falling in love with her by the end of the movie. I would like to begin by talking about family and family communication. A family is the sum of its parts. You can't just know one without knowing all of them, and by just knowing one, you wouldn't understand the entire family dynamic. Laura Jean is extremely close with her family. Unfortunately, she lost her mother at a young age, but she's really close to her dad, who's extremely supportive of all 3 of his girls. He's pretty emotional, and he reflects on how old his girls get constantly. He's there for them and is able to communicate with them in a way that no one else can. Laura Jean is close with her younger sister Kitty, who's about 6th grade. She's really close, and her younger sister even cancels plans sometimes just to hang out with her. She comforts her and pushes her, and sometimes acts as an older sister to her in a way. She gets mad at Kitty for mailing out the letters, but she's subconsciously grateful for making her put herself out there. Kitty is truly wise beyond her years, but they're constantly together. They go to school together. They talk about things all the time, and it really, really strengthens the relationship. Margot has to act like a maternal figure because unfortunately the mother has passed away. She ends up going to college in Scotland and leaving the girls at the beginning of the movie, and you could tell that Laura Jean's life kind of falls apart without her. When she leaves, she breaks up with Josh, and after the letters get out and everything happens, Josh goes to Laura Jean and wants to make sure that their friendship is still okay because they were best friends before he started dating her and before he found out that Laura Jean did have feelings for him at some point. It does get a little awkward, but at the end, Margot will always love Laura Jean, and she will always be there for her. Margot still follows her mom's advice, which is why she breaks up with Josh before she goes to college. She acts as a role model for the other 2 girls, and Laura Jean is extremely open with her and tells her everything, except what happens with the letters. Eventually, she comes clean and goes to her for help when she comes home for winter break, and Margot is really able to help her fix everything, get her life back together, and help her to believe in herself again, just as a good older sister would. All of the examples in their family are examples of interdependent family relationships, which are different systems within a larger system. Also, their family is so close and bonded and strong because they're so conversation-oriented. They are always talking about what's going on in their lives, and they're open and free, and they have so many family narratives which help them to grow closer to each other and really makes their family one strong unit. Next, I would like to talk about the different friendships. The 3 different friendships that are highlighted in this movie are Josh, Jen, and Christine. As I mentioned earlier, Josh was dating Laura Jean's older sister Margot, but was originally Laura Jean's best friend and will still be her best friend even after they break up, after he finds out everything that Laura Jean had feelings for him and had written him the letter. This is an example of a cross-sex friendship, and even though there is potential romantic undertones in the past when he was dating her sister and when she realized how she felt about him, overall, it's a pretty platonic friendship, and he's always there for her no matter what. She goes through crazy lengths to avoid communicating with Josh how she really ended up feeling about him, but ends up telling him everything, and he helps her and he guides her through the situation, and he's always there for her. Immediately after his breakup with Marco, he went to Laura Jean and he said, "We'll always be cool, right?" And she agreed. Next, I want to talk about Jen. Jen is not what you think for a typical friendship. Actually, she's kind of an enemy. However, Jen and Laura Jean were best friends in the 7th grade and all the time before. In the 7th grade, they were at a party and they were playing Spin the Bottle, and Jen had always had a crush on Peter Kavinsky. The bottle landed on Laura Jean and she kissed Peter. Ever since then, she turned mean and vindictive, and she ended up bullying Laura Jean constantly. This all happened due to poor communication. If she would have just been honest with Laura Jean about how that made her feel, they probably could have had a really strong friendship, but because she didn't, she ends up being the bully and truly the villain of the movie. But aside from that terrible friendship, Jen's cousin, Christine, is an excellent friend to Laura. They have frequent contact. They're not just friends from convenience or from obligation. They're friends because Christine genuinely wants to be there for Laura Jean, and Laura Jean genuinely wants to be there for Christine. They go through everything together. They're basically attached by the hip, and even though Laura Jean doesn't explain to her about her secret relationship with Peter, Christine is extremely supportive of everything that Laura does, and their communication is super strong. Lastly, I want to talk about the most important things, which is the romantic relationships that happen in this movie between Peter Kavinsky and Laura Jean. I'd like to highlight their love language because as they learn each other's love language, their relationship that what seemed like originally fake becomes very strong. There are 5 different love languages I want to discuss: words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and acts of service, and physical touch. So words of affirmation, Peter Kavinsky is constantly calling Laura Jean beautiful. He writes her little notes every day, and he's always supportive of her. Although it may have originally been a thing to get Jen jealous, as he speaks it into existence and he chooses to highlight and recognize all of the beautiful things and tell Laura Jean about them, he falls for her over time. Also, quality time is a very, very, very big factor. He makes her promise that Laura Jean will go to all of his lacrosse games, that they'll drive to school together, and they end up hanging out whenever they can. This bond that they create through quality time makes them extremely close. Peter pushes Laura out of her comfort zone and takes her to parties that she wouldn't have originally gone to, and Peter will chill with Laura Jean at the house and just have time to chill and to be really close with her. Going back to the little love letters, these are great examples of gifts. Little things that he does to just make her feel special and make her to give their relationship a little bit of extra spice. Also, acts of service. So one really great example of acts of service in the movie that Peter Kavinsky does for Laura Jean is when they're going to go on ski trip, he goes all across town and asks her younger sister where Laura Jean gets her favorite Korean yogurt. He drives all across town to get it and to make sure that she has it as a snack on the ski trip. Him going out of the way for her is just so special and so significant that it goes a long way. Lastly, physical touch. So this is a really interesting issue when it comes to Laura Jean and Peter. Laura Jean doesn't want all of her firsts to be fake, so she says that they shouldn't kiss and that they shouldn't be intimate, but she does give him permission to put his hand in her back pocket. It may seem silly, but as they get closer and their bond intensifies, their physical touches get deeper, they hold hands more, they touch more, and they end up kissing and becoming really, really, really close. This physical touch is a way of communicating without saying any words that just shows them both how they truly feel about each other. The relationship was forced from the beginning, so all of their examples of love languages are extremely clear. They're really, really prevalent because they make them obvious. But because they're so clear and they're so strong that it ends up making them fall in love for real. Laura Jean even says fake dating Peter was getting easier and easier. She became close with his friends. They started doing things together. They got close to each other's families. She said sometimes it was so easy that she let herself pretend it wasn't fake. The last thing I want to talk about is relational commitment. Peter Kavinsky and Laura Jean really bond over talking about their families. They keep each other's secrets, which is really essential. They keep each other's secrets that the relationship is fake and about the personal things that they open up to each other about. But as they open up to each other about their families, they're able to reach this deeper level of communication that really makes them close. She confesses to Peter that